Hey guys, if you like my videos, please like and subscribe to my channel. I would really appreciate it, thanks. And also let me know where y'all are watching from and at what time. I'm curious. Ethan Grayson woke to the sound of something softly scraping against his front door. It wasn't the wind. The air had been dead still all night. No rain, no storm, not even the rustling of leaves. Just silence, thick and unnatural, pressing against the walls of his isolated cabin like a held breath. He sat up, his hunting rifle leaning against the nightstand, his revolver in its usual place beneath his pillow. Years of tracking, of long nights spent alone in the woods, had honed his instincts. Something was wrong. The scrape came again. Ethan exhaled and climbed out of bed, the wooden floor creaking beneath his weight. The clock read 3:12 a.m. He moved carefully, easing up to the door, gripping the revolver in one hand as he flicked on the porch light. Nothing, no movement, no footprints in the dirt, just the dense black of the surrounding forest, stretching endlessly into the night. But then he saw it. A crumpled, damp letter sitting just inside the threshold. Frowning, he crouched and picked it up. The paper felt cold and wet, the ink smudged, but the words were still legible. And as his eyes traced the frantic, looping script, his breath caught in his throat. It was written in his sister's handwriting. "Ethan, please, I don't have much time. It's here. It won't let me go. I need you to come find me, please, before it's too late." His fingers tightened around the paper. His sister Lena had been missing for over 3 months. They had searched for weeks, volunteers, search parties, helicopters scouring the wilderness. They found her campsite, her overturned tent, her abandoned gear, but no body, no tracks, nothing. Now, here it was. A letter that shouldn't exist. His stomach twisted. The ink had bled like it had been left out in the rain, and beneath the musty, rotting paper scent, there was something else. Decay, like damp earth, like old flesh, like a thing that had been buried too long. Ethan stood, gripping the letter so hard his knuckles went white. He knew the place she was talking about, the deep woods, where the land twisted into a maze of dead trees and cold air, the place where people went missing. He turned back into the cabin, jaw clenched, muscles tight. He needed to pack, his rifle, his revolver, enough ammo to deal with whatever was waiting for him in those woods. Because if Lena was still alive, he'd find her, and if something else had her, he'd put a bullet in it. The forest should have been alive with sound. Ethan knew these woods better than most, better than the missing hikers, the lost campers, the ones who strayed too far past the marked trails and were never seen again. This place was his hunting ground, and he had spent countless nights tracking deer through the underbrush, listening to the rhythmic chatter of insects, the rustling of unseen creatures moving between the trees. But today there was nothing, no birds, no wind, no life. The silence pressed in around him like a thick, suffocating fog. Even his own footsteps seemed muffled, absorbed into the unnatural stillness. Ethan adjusted the rifle slung over his shoulder, his grip tightening on the strap. The deeper he moved into the woods, the more wrong everything felt. At first it was small things, branches hanging just a little too low, gnarled into bony, skeletal fingers. The subtle tilt of the trees, as if they were bending ever so slightly toward him. Then the claw marks. They started appearing along the trunks, long, jagged slashes carved deep into the bark, some fresh, some darkened with age. He crouched by one, running his fingers along the grooves, not bear claws. Too long, too deep, too deliberate. Ethan stood scanning the trees, his pulse hammering a slow, steady rhythm against his ribs. That was when he smelled it. Rot, not the usual decay of the wild, dead leaves, old wood, the fading scent of a kill left too long in the sun. This was something older, fouler. Then he saw it, a deer carcass positioned upright, leaning against a tree like a broken puppet. Its head was tilted at an unnatural angle, its mouth locked in a twisted mockery of a scream, its eyes missing, hollow sockets staring into nothing. Ethan stepped closer, instinct warring with dread. The smell of rotting flesh thickened in his nostrils, but what struck him more was the intentionality of it. Someone or something had placed it here, and it had been watching him long before he saw it. His grip tightened on his rifle, A sound echoed in the distance, faint, just barely audible. A voice he hadn't heard in 3 months. "Ethan, please, help me." It was distant, weak, not quite right. Ethan's breath came sharp and slow, his muscles tensed, his instincts screaming at him to run. Instead, he shouldered his rifle and took the next step deeper into the woods. If his sister was still alive, he was going to find her. If something was playing with him, he was going to kill it. Ethan moved forward, his boots pressing into the damp earth, his breath measured and steady. Gun ready, eyes sharp. The voice had come from somewhere ahead, his sister's voice, or something pretending to be her. The trees around him grew denser, their twisted limbs reaching inward, choking the path. The deeper he went, the more the forest felt warped. He passed an old hunting blind, one he didn't recognize. The structure sagged with age, its wooden slats warped, its ladder missing the bottom rungs as if something had ripped them away. A gust of wind should have rustled the branches, but there was still no wind, just the silence. And then, "Ethan, please." The voice came again, closer. His muscles coiled and he turned sharply, raising his rifle. Nothing, only trees, shadows stretching too far. The voice returned, a strained whisper, "Help me." Ethan's stomach twisted. His sister had never spoken like that. Even in her worst moments, even when she was scared or exhausted, her voice had never carried that strange, broken quality, as if something were trying to mimic her, but didn't quite understand how. He moved toward the sound, rifle at the ready. His boots crushed something brittle, and he glanced down. Bones, small, scattered. Not deer, something else. A shift in the undergrowth to his left. Not a small animal, something bigger. Ethan snapped his rifle toward it, finger tightening on the trigger. The undergrowth went still. He exhaled through his nose, slow and steady. He needed to be careful. Whatever was out here wanted him to move recklessly. He took another step, and his boots sank. Ethan jerked back, his pulse hammering as the earth beneath him shifted, soft and wrong. He looked down. The dirt was too dark, too damp. Then he realized it wasn't dirt. It was flesh. His breath hitched as he took a step back, the surface giving slightly beneath his weight, like something half-rotted, buried just beneath the soil. Then, a breath, not his own. It came from directly behind him. The whisper brushed against his ear. "I knew you'd come." Ethan whirled, rifle raised. Nothing, just the empty woods, stretching endlessly in every direction. His hands were shaking. Whatever was out here, it was playing with him. But Ethan wasn't prey. He squared his shoulders, jaw clenched, and pushed forward. Whatever was mimicking his sister was about to learn what it felt like to be hunted. Ethan forced himself to breathe evenly, the cold weight of his rifle a steadying presence in his hands. His instincts screamed that he was being led somewhere, hunted, tested, toyed with. But he'd hunted long enough to know that even the best predators could become prey. The forest had grown darker. The trees loomed taller, their bark split open in deep gouges. Some marks looked fresh, the wood beneath raw and pale. Others were old, the wounds blackened, as if the trees had tried to heal but failed. Then he saw them. Tracks, barefoot, small, feminine. Lena's? Ethan crouched, brushing a gloved hand over the indentations in the damp soil. The prints were clear, deep. Someone had moved through here recently. His gut twisted. That wasn't possible. Lena had been missing for months. His fingers traced the edges of the tracks, his hunter's mind analyzing every detail. There was no drag, no stagger. Whoever left these was walking normally, calmly. That was the first red flag. The second came when he followed them. At first they moved in a straight line, leading deeper into the forest. But after a dozen paces, the next set of prints were gone. Ethan frowned. He studied the ground ahead, undisturbed. No sign of struggle, no sign of weight shifting into the earth. It was as if whoever left the tracks had simply been lifted into the air. A cold prickle ran down his spine. Something wasn't right. Then movement. Above him, his eyes snapped upward. Dangling from a tree, tangled in the thick dead branches, was a backpack. His stomach dropped. It was Lena's. The fabric was torn, shredded, deep claw marks raking across the sides. The straps hung in loose, frayed threads, as if it had been ripped off her body. Slowly, cautiously, he stepped forward. The air here felt thicker, wrong. the scent of rot lingering just beneath the damp, loamy smell of the forest. He reached up, fingers brushing against the torn fabric. Then, a snap in the underbrush, not far. Low to the ground, his instincts took over. In a single, practiced motion, Ethan whipped his rifle toward the sound, aiming down the sights. The undergrowth shifted. Something was watching him. The silence deepened. A weight pressed against his senses, heavy and suffocating. Then, just beyond the tangled limbs and dead leaves, he saw it. A figure, not fully visible, just standing there, barely out of sight, and it was smiling. Ethan kept his rifle steady, his breathing slow and measured. The figure in the trees wasn't moving, not stepping forward, not swaying, just standing there, watching. He could barely make out its features through the tangled branches, but what little he saw made his skin crawl. It was Lena. Same height, same auburn hair, tied back in a low ponytail, same old faded hiking jacket she wore on every trip. But something was wrong. She wasn't blinking. Her head tilted slightly, just a fraction too sharp, like a puppet with its strings yanked. Her arms hung stiff at her sides, her hands too still. And then she smiled, too wide, too sharp. The expression stretched across her face in an unnatural curve, like her skin wasn't meant to move that way. Ethan's grip on the rifle tightened. His heart pounded against his ribs, but his hand stayed steady. This wasn't Lena. He took a step forward, barrel trained on the figure's head. If this was some sick joke, he'd end it right now. The thing laughed, but it wasn't normal laughter. The sound looped, repeating in the exact same rhythm, like a recording. The hairs on Ethan's arms stood on end. His stomach twisted, muscles coiling, instincts screaming at him to run. The thing that looked like Lena took a step toward him. He didn't hesitate. Ethan pulled the trigger. The rifle kicked hard against his shoulder, the crack of the shot tearing through the suffocating silence. The bullet hit dead center. For a split second, everything was still. Then, slowly, too slowly, the thing's head twitched, not like someone recoiling from pain, not like a person reacting, like something realigning itself. The smile remained unbroken as it took another step forward. Ethan's pulse slammed against his skull. The rational part of his mind screamed at him. Anything human would be dead. Anything real would be down. This thing wasn't. Then it moved, fast, too fast. 1 second it was standing, the next it scuttled away on all fours, vanishing into the trees. The laughter still echoed, looping, repeating, until the sound melted into the wind. Ethan didn't move. He only lowered his rifle when he was sure, absolutely sure, that whatever he had just seen was gone. But he knew, deep down, this was only the beginning. Ethan forced himself to move, his breath slow, controlled. His rifle was still warm from the shot, his knuckles white against the grip. That thing, it wasn't his sister. And he was no longer alone in these woods. The trees felt tighter now, closing in, their skeletal limbs arching above him like a rib cage. The ground beneath his boots was soft, too damp, like it had been disturbed recently, a grave that had been dug up. He needed to get out of here. He turned back toward his camp, keeping his movements deliberate. The fading light turned the branches into twisted silhouettes. He could still hear that looping laughter in the back of his mind, echoing like a broken recording. Then, scrape. Ethan froze. The sound came from behind him, not close, but not far enough. A slow, deliberate scraping, nails dragging against wood. He turned his head, scanning the trees. His rifle stayed raised, finger lightly resting on the trigger. The sound came again, higher up this time. His stomach dropped. It was in the trees. Ethan's eyes swept the canopy. The dying light made it hard to see past the tangled web of branches. But then, just beyond his range of clear vision, something moved. Not like a squirrel, not like a bird. Something bigger, something with fingers. A low breath escaped him. He took a slow step back, adjusting his grip on the rifle. Then he saw it. Long, bony fingers curled around the trunk of a nearby tree, the skin stretched too tight, unnaturally pale against the rough bark. A second hand followed, and then it unfolded itself. Ethan's stomach tightened like a fist. The creature was emaciated, its skin stretched thin over an elongated frame, its ribs protruding like a thing that had long since starved. But its face, hollow black eyes, no lips, no nose, just an empty maw that never moved. And yet, a voice whispered directly into Ethan's ear. Why did you let me die? His blood turned to ice. It was Lena's voice, but she wasn't here. The thing moved, its head twitching, jerking at an unnatural angle as it began crawling down the tree, upside down, too fast. Ethan reacted on instinct. He fired. The shot tore through the air, slamming into the thing's shoulder. It let out a horrible, warbling shriek, a sound that was part scream, part garbled static, part something human. And then it laughed. Not in Lena's voice anymore. It laughed in his. Ethan's breath hitched. His mind screamed at him to move, to run. But then the thing lunged. Ethan dove sideways, the creature's clawed fingers slashing through the air where he had stood a second before. His boots hit the damp earth hard, rolling as he raised his rifle again. But the thing was fast. It landed on all fours, its limbs unnaturally long, moving in sharp, insect-like bursts. The wound in its shoulder dripped something thicker than blood, something black, something wrong. It should have been in pain. Instead it laughed, his laugh. It wasn't a perfect mimicry. The cadence was off, the pitch too sharp at the edges, like it was learning how to wear his voice, how to become him. Ethan didn't wait. He squeezed the trigger again. Boom! The second shot slammed into its chest, a direct hit. The force sent it stumbling back, limbs contorting in strange angles, its head tilting too far as if its neck was loose inside its skin. It stopped laughing. Then it spoke. Mom always liked me more, Ethan. His breath froze in his throat. That was Lena's voice. But worse than that, it knew things it shouldn't know. Things only he and Lena had ever talked about. Something inside him snapped. He took a step forward, gripping the rifle tighter, his hands shaking from more than just adrenaline. "You're not her," he growled. The creature tilted its head again, the skin at its throat stretching unnaturally. Then it smiled. "Aren't I?" It lunged. Ethan barely had time to react. He threw himself backward, but its claws raked across his shoulder, cutting through his jacket like paper. The burn of it was immediate, deep. He gritted his teeth against the pain, rolling as he yanked the revolver from his hip holster. The creature screeched, limbs bending backward as it scrambled toward him again. Ethan fired. Bang! The revolver's kick was sharp, the bullet slamming into its leg. This time it reacted. The thing let out a garbled, gurgling sound, part pain, part static, before it scuttled backward into the shadows. Ethan scrambled to his feet, his breath coming in sharp gasps, blood seeping from his wounded shoulder. The woods were silent again. The thing was gone, but he knew it wasn't over. It was toying with him, and it wasn't finished. Ethan pressed a gloved hand to his shoulder. Warm blood slicked his fingers. The cuts were deep, but not enough to slow him down. Not yet. He exhaled through clenched teeth, scanning the darkness between the trees. The thing was still out there, watching, waiting. It had been playing with him since the moment he stepped into these woods. It mimicked voices, stole memories, used them as weapons. But Ethan was done playing. He needed to go on the offensive. His eyes followed the smear of blackened blood leading away into the deeper part of the forest. The thing bled. That meant it could be killed. Rifle tight in his grip, Ethan followed the trail. The terrain shifted as he moved. The trees grew denser, the air colder, the smell of rot thicker. The deeper he went, the more the land felt wrong, like it wasn't meant to be walked. Then he saw them, bones, scattered across the forest floor, half buried in the damp soil. Dozens of them. Some were small, animal remains, deer, rabbits, foxes, but others, Ethan's breath hitched. Some were human, skulls with jagged bite marks, rib cages that had been cracked open like hollow shells. A cold fist gripped his gut. This thing wasn't just a hunter for amusement. It was feeding on humans. It had been doing this for years, decades. His stomach clenched as his eyes landed on a torn scrap of fabric caught on a tree branch. A familiar color, a faded hiking jacket. He stepped closer, his boots pressing into the damp earth. Then he saw it. Nestled among the scattered bones of a skeleton, half buried in the filth, was a pendant he recognized. His grandmother had given it to Lena when she was little. He looked at the skull of the skeleton, small, cracked. Lena, a deep, burning rage swallowed his breath. The thing had never kept her. It never intended to. Lena had been dead this whole time, and he'd walked right into its trap. A sound behind him, not movement, not breathing, something laughing. Ethan whipped around, revolver raised. The trees were empty, but the voice came anyway. "Why do you look so sad, Ethan?" It was Lena's voice. Low, soft, close. His chest tightened. A whisper brushed his ear. "You should stay." And from the shadows, something crawled toward him. Ethan pivoted fast, his boots grinding into the damp earth as he raised his revolver. The thing was crawling toward him. Its limbs jerked unnaturally, moving like a marionette with half-cut strings, its fingers digging deep into the soil as it pulled itself forward. The hollow black eyes never blinked, never wavered. And that smile, too wide, too knowing, too human and not human at all. Bang! The revolver's crack split the air as the shot hit its chest, tearing through the skin. The thing convulsed. A sickening, inhuman wail erupted from its throat, warbling, static-filled like a dozen voices screaming at once. Ethan didn't wait. He moved, fast and low, using the moment to gain distance. His hands worked on instinct, reloading the revolver as he sprinted toward the trees. He needed to end this. His mind locked onto one thought: bait it, trap it, kill it. He could feel the thing watching him, feel the shift in the air as it gathered itself. It wasn't dead. It never was. But Ethan had something it didn't: experience. He reached a small clearing, the kind hunters used for baiting big game. Perfect. He turned sharply, raised his rifle, and waited. The forest went still. A beat, a breath, then movement. The thing rushed him fast. Too fast. Its limbs snapped unnaturally, its body a blur of pale skin and black hollows. Ethan aimed, fired. The first shot tore into its shoulder. The second hit dead center in its chest. The thing screeched, its entire body spasming, but still it kept coming. Ethan let the rifle drop, gripping his revolver instead. The creature lunged, and he fired straight into its open maw. Boom! The thing jerked backward, its body convulsing, a wet, choking noise escaping its throat. It collapsed, its limbs spasming against the dirt, twitching violently. Ethan didn't hesitate. He emptied the rest of his rounds into its chest, each shot tearing through its unnatural flesh, each bullet sinking deep. The thing let out one final garbled cry, then stopped moving. Silence. Ethan stood there, revolver smoking in his hands, chest heaving, his pulse hammered in his ears. Was it dead? He took a cautious step forward. The thing's body lay still, its limbs sprawled awkwardly. Another step. No movement, no sound. Maybe he heard a whisper behind him. "You can't run forever." Ethan's blood ran cold. His head whipped around to look behind him. When he turned back, the thing's body was gone. And in the distance, just beyond the trees, something moved. Something waiting. Something smiling. Ethan didn't stop running until he saw the first hints of morning light breaking through the trees. His legs burned, his wounded shoulder throbbed, but he didn't slow. He couldn't. Every instinct screamed at him, "Don't stop, don't look back, just get out." When he finally reached the trailhead, the open space where the forest ended and the real world began, his breath hitched. The trees behind him stood silent, their twisted limbs still reaching, still waiting. But nothing followed. Not yet. Ethan collapsed near his truck, his hands shaking as he shoved his rifle into the back seat. He was covered in sweat, dirt, blood, but he didn't care. He just needed to go. The engine roared to life, and he slammed the truck into gear. Gravel sprayed as he tore down the old logging road, away from the woods, away from the thing that had worn his sister's voice like a mask. He drove for hours. By the time he reached his cabin, the sun was high, the sky a bright, impossible blue. It felt wrong, like the night in the woods had been some terrible fever dream, something that couldn't exist under the daylight. But his wounds were real, the scratches on his shoulder, the torn fabric of his jacket, the memory of those black eyes. Ethan staggered inside and locked every door, every window. He checked his guns, reloaded, cleaned the barrels. Then he sat at his kitchen table, hands clenched into fists, and waited. For hours, for days. Nothing happened. No footsteps outside, no strange voices, no claw marks on his walls. Maybe, just maybe, he'd done enough. Maybe it was over. He almost let himself believe it, until the third night. A soft tap against the door. His heart stopped. It was slow, deliberate. A pause. Then a scraping sound, something being pushed under the door. Ethan didn't move, didn't breathe. The air in the cabin felt thick, heavy. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, he forced himself to look. A piece of paper lay just inside the threshold. His fingers trembled as he reached for it, the smell of damp earth and decay rising from the page. The handwriting was familiar. Lena's, come out and play.